So we're halfway through the year 2020, and while movie theaters have kind of been closed for 3 months now, that doesn't mean we haven't gotten some really bad films throughout the first half of this year. So here's my bottom 5 films of the year 2020 thus far. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your least favorite movies of the year thus far. I'm not trying to be mean, cynical. I don't want this to be just like this anger fest down below, but not every movie is for everyone. Which movies that you watched this year just did not connect with you? Also, over on my Patreon page, I have a companion video to this with 5 more of my least favorite movies of the year thus far. So if you want to check that out, join at any level. The link is down below in the description, and let's get started. Coming in at number 5 from the bottom is The Turning. Now, the first hour and a half of this film were, generally speaking, a pretty dull, forgettable, haunted house film with decent enough performances from everyone around. And then as the movie progresses, it's as if they just didn't know where to end the film and introduced this whole other idea about insanity, and then the credits start rolling. You get to the end and it just feels like they didn't have an end, and so just very abruptly, out of the blue, just cuts off. So even if it had a better, more satisfying conclusion to it, still wouldn't have been a good movie, but at least it would have been a complete movie. As is, it was a movie I was pretty bored by and then was baffled at where they decided to end it. Number 4 is Artemis Fowl. Wow, this is a movie that has absolutely no excuses for how bad it turned out. It's based off of a hit series of books. So they had source material with stories that already worked. They just needed to translate it to the big screen. What studio did this? Disney, the studio that cranks out family movies like this all the time that are really good. They know how to make movies like this. They know how to adapt books into movies. What went wrong here? No clue. Who directed it? Kenneth Branagh. This is a guy that knows the studio system, has created a bunch of fantastic adaptations of Shakespeare plays. What happened with this movie? I really don't know what went wrong. It feels an awful lot like they had a script for a 2.5-hour movie, and then they went, ooh, this is bad, we gotta fix it. Let's just make it short. 90 minutes long. Let's get Josh Gad to do his Batman impression, record some voiceover for it, and we'll fill in all the gaps for the hour that we cut out with that and just drop it somewhere. This movie, it's incoherent. It's tough to follow. It does not have a satisfying conclusion at the end. And it was a movie that I did not enjoy. Number 3, The Wrong Missy. This is the latest Happy Madison comedy for Netflix, and like pretty much all the Happy Madison comedies for Netflix, it's pretty dreadful. This one kind of cranks up the annoying, though, as the inherent nature of the story is, let's create a character that's incredibly annoying, that is not remotely charismatic, but for some reason try and create a scenario where she's the perfect person for David Spade. So this turns into her being the absolute worst for an hour of the film, and then suddenly we're supposed to be like, she's really good at a bunch of things, therefore it's okay that she's terrible. It's not okay that she's terrible. She is obnoxious. And the movie, I mean, it gets rapey at times. I mean, it's just wildly offensive in some of the stuff it does. And at the end of the day, the jokes just aren't funny. It's just so slapstick. It's so much about just someone screaming, someone vomiting, someone passing out, someone drinking too much. That's the punchline. There's no wit to it. It's all loud and obnoxious and not a pleasant experience. Our runner-up for bottom movie of the year thus far is Fantasy Island. This Blumhouse adaptation of the TV show from like 40 years ago has a good premise for a Blumhouse horror film, but the execution here and the characters that they chose just do not work. At the core of it, making a movie about people's fantasies coming to life, you need to have some imagination in the fantasies that they come up with, and that's just not what these are. Like, two of the guys like, let's go to a party. Wow. Another guy, I want to be a soldier. And that's kind of as deep as the fantasies get here. There's not a lot of fantastical in the fantasies that they want. And then as the story goes along, the characters get less and less likable. These two guys that want to go to the party are just loud and obnoxious bros. Then there's this whole plot line where we're supposed to care about this one girl and her past and trauma, things that she's faced. They introduce new characters related to her. All of it kind of building up to some plot twists in the end that, I mean, defy all logic, reason, makes absolutely no sense, and just leaves you scratching your head wondering, why did I just watch this movie? But the worst movie of the year thus far for me was The Grudge, a movie about people being killed in a house by some creature. And as I was watching it, I was thinking, I might prefer being killed by this creature than having to finish watching this film. It was just so tedious. The way it's kind of structured, it has like 4 different narratives going on that are loosely tied together by the end of the film. And they establish characters that you're supposed to care about, make their story sound super depressing, and then they get killed by a monster. And so it's like a gut punch followed by your leg being cut off, and then you're forced to eat your own leg for the runtime of the film. I did not enjoy it. I mean, John Cho is in it. I really like him, and Betty Gilpin. They're fun to watch in most things. Not this movie, a very unpleasant experience, a horror film that relies entirely on a very stale bag of tricks, and nothing new to add to the genre except an unusually large amount of unpleasantness. So it comes in absolute last place for the year thus far. Remember, I've got a companion video to this over on my Patreon page with 5 more of the worst films of the year thus far. Be sure to tell me your least favorite movies down below. Don't get too nasty. That's not where I want this to go. But if a movie didn't work for you, it didn't work for you. Let me know down below, and keep talking movies too much.